Slate pick 4, the Meadowlands for Saturday night, October 13th. I was about to say January for some reason. I don't even want to think about January because it's October. October's not January. It's so far.
Oh, hold on. I'm wearing the wrong hat.
Waiting for Rod to put on the right hat.
Okay, we're good.
Did you just put that hat on top of the other hat?
No, I took the other one off.
No, Rod. Put the Ontario Sire Stakes hat on. And
Are we back on video?
On top of that.
Okay, I just need to know these things.
Rod, put the hat you just put on top of the Ontario Sire Stake hat, and put the Ontario Sire Stake hat like a 45-degree angle, so you look cool partially, and then you look like a normal person.
I'll just do this.
You went halfway. That's as much as I can ask from you, I guess. So, the first leg of this Meadowlands Pick 4 starts with race number 8. They got 11 races tomorrow evening. The 8th race, non-winners of $8,850 in their last 5 starts, or $55,000 in 2017. 18 starters in a class higher than non-winners of $14,000 and last and eligible. Also eligible. 5-year-olds and younger, non-winners of $65,000 lifetime, or 4 extended pari-mutuel races. And then we have some other stuff about sportsmanship and bookies, Prince Racing on couple. Big condition, which just goes to show you how much effort it takes to try and fill this box at the Meadowlands, unfortunately. First leg, though, I think a pretty competitive race. On the morning line, the lowest horse I take is 8-1, and I had a hard time trying to use the morning line as any kind of handicapping indicator in this race because with the Meadowlands, what we're seeing here is a lot of horses shipping in since they've been off for a couple months. And so it's kind of hard to gauge the class structure when you have so many horses coming from so many different backgrounds into this race, or to this track in general, too, with the meet just starting. And sometimes you use morning line to try and figure out if you're on the right track or not. At least I do. I don't know about you guys. Mike, though, starting off with you do go fairly deep in this first leg, and I understand why, because there are definitely a lot of avenues.
Yeah, I think it's extremely difficult pick 4. Really tough with all the, like you said, the shippers and things. So I'm 5 deep in the first leg. I'm going to start with the 1, Sportsmanship. This horse raced very well at this racetrack this year, has a 51-3 win. I like Osceola. I mean, that's no secret. This horse, raced decently at Pocono Numbers of 7,000, which is kind of an in-between condition there. You get a lot of droppers in those races, but face horses like, Asland, that's a decent horse that fits in here. Sweet Rock last time, was first up last time, no chance. 0 on. I don't mind that one at a price. The 3, Solo Story, gets Brett Miller, and, there's another one that was racing at Pocono from outside post, has some back class, and, I think the big track could suit this horse's rally. The 5, Messi, this horse dropped outside post at Philly, 2 back 1 at 33-1. Prior to that was racing well at Yonkers and at Pocono, so this horse doesn't really need to, necessarily take his track with him. Just competitive everywhere. Maybe a little cheap, but, with the drop, should be okay in the race. The 7, Brookie's Prince. This horse raced numbers a 6, another Osceola horse. Was first over at Yonkers. No good there, but that was against Bloodline. That horse is much better than these horses. Prior to that, 1, 2 out of 3 at Pocono, so I'm going to use that one. And then the 8, Santiago Style, raced extremely well here earlier in the year. Has a 49-3 win at the Meadowlands. Outside post at Pocono, no shot. Definitely won't get 12-1 on this one. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 8 start.
Wow, that's a lot of numbers. Almost enough numbers you can make a phone call. Rodney, I understand you're also deep in this race, but you're kind of deviating from the numbers Mike has. What makes you think yours are so much better?
Because mine are going to win. I'm starting with the 3, Solo Story.
I have a 3.
Don't take such offense, Mike. God. Anyway, I start with the 3, Solo Story. I think his style fits this racetrack much better. His lifetime mark came on a big track, so the move back there doesn't surprise me. He was in a 30,000 claimer, 4 starts back. I see no reason not to have this horse on your ticket. I don't think he's even going to be close to the morning line odds. This is just a class that's a little bit cheaper than what he's been in with recently, and he got a start in after the scratch, so I expect a pretty good effort from him in here. The 5, Messi, a nice win against similar 2 starts back. This kind of seems to be his level, and he drops back down to a level where he's basically competitive every time he's in with similar company. The 6, Lear Sealster. This is kind of a different class for him. He's been facing non-winners of 6s at a cheaper track. Are you dying over there?
I died for a second. My heart stopped, but it restarted.
Okay. Lear Sealster.
Are you dying over there?
Yeah. He definitely plays here. 3-year-old, but I think he plays. He should get a nice trip here. The 8, Santiago Style, like Mike said. This one, I think, coming from Pocono, he's got the quickest times, but Pocono is fast. He's going to like the big track.
He loves it.
Yeah, and he's got a mark at 49 in a piece at the Meadowlands this year, so he's a must-have on your ticket. The 9, Bruce's Magic. I throw him on because he's going to be following the 8 the whole way around. And if he gets drug up close enough, the 8 has to do a little bit more work than he wants to. The 9 can get there. So 3, 5, 6, 8, 9.
The 9 does not look appealing to me just off those lines at Pocono and Philly, even though they were against tougher. I also have a hard time gauging his race on September 11th, where he won at hours of 6,300, odds-on favorite from the rail. Now his post 9. I think he's just going to be overbet. Messi's somewhat the same way. This horse has trouble finishing a mile. Of course, he's racing at Pocono Downs, which isn't even a mile, so that might even play into it even further. If he can't even finish a bare mile, how is he going to finish a real mile? Like, come on, Messi. He's got to clean up his act, Messi. I go 3 deep. Sportsmanship, I agree with Mike. I actually remember driving home from the Adios and watching this horse win at the Meadowlands that night. That's when he set that season's mark. He's been over at Pocono since then, and while he has had trouble winning on the lead, he's always been better at grinding. Last out went first over against numbers of 7,000, similar to this group over at Pocono, and he ended up finishing 4th off that first over trip. Definitely will benefit from the draw. Definitely will benefit from not going to the lead. And if he does those 2 things, well, if he does that one thing in association with his other thing, then this thing could really work out for him. Solo Story, I agree as well. 15-1 on the morning line is ridiculous for a horse that was 5-2 favorite in his last start. He's going to make his second start off of a 6 scratch. And has gradually kind of dropped down the class ladder after being claimed for 20,000 over at Yonkers back on August 31st. And he raced okay over at Yonkers, but when he when he went to the slightly bigger track, you could definitely see a bit of an improvement. He tried to come from off the pace over at Pocono, was definitely aided by a fast first half and a slow last half to help kind of bring him into the mix late. But moving to 2 turns instead of 3, second start off the 6 scratch, is no detriment whatsoever. Should definitely be a factor. And then I also throw in the 4, Major Authority, who made his first start since a pretty poor effort on August 13th over at Yonkers. Did so at Freehold Raceway against numbers of 1,500. Won by 10 lengths there as the 1-9 favorite. Seemed to be getting back into form. Another one that moves to the bigger track and has decent miles over at the half and the pass. I look back to July 21st in a division. The Excelsior came from off the pace to finish 4th. From post 7, definitely is a sign that this horse could thrive on a bigger track, and if he does, might be a price just off of the big class discrepancy, theoretically that is. So I'm 1-3-4 in that first leg. Santiago Style I was kind of concerned about. I ended up not using, but if you want to throw him on, you can definitely throw him on. I don't think it makes my ticket that much more expensive, but still, I'm 1-3-4 in the first leg of the Meadowlands Big 4. Second leg is the 9th race. Numbers at 3,500 in their last 5 starts. It's another division of the dash for the G notes. We got 1, 2, 4, 7, 10 horses going closer here. And of course, Mike, with an hours at 3,500, you only get the best of the best in the harness racing world to line up behind this gate. So much so that you had a hard time dividing 5 of them.
It's extremely difficult. These races are tough anyway, and then you get all the shippers and things. So I'm 5 deep again. You have the 2, Southwind Indy. Gets post relief. Terrible post at Pocono. This horse likes a big track. It's a 51-3 mark at Mohawk. 14 lifetime wins. A little bit of back class. I like the draw for this one. Man's been driving. He drives and trains, so he knows the horse. I think the big track suits, so I'll use that one. The 4, rather swell. 9 hole at Philly in a 15 open claimer. No shot there while impeded. And, the horse has back lines. Again, he looks like the rest of them, but he's 15-1 morning line. I'll use him. The 5, Winsong Jack drops. Was racing numbers of 5,000 at Yonkers, and has been getting tired there, but raced well here earlier in the year, 51-1 mark. So we'll try that one. The 6, Show Me Up. Outside post at Saratoga is the main reason I use that one. And then the 10, the Stratocaster, another one that prefers the big tracks. Outside post at Pocono again. Outside post here, but is a closer. Should sit 1 punch. Big price. We'll try that one. So 2, 4, 5, 6, and 10.
Now, Rod, tell me why you only got 3 horses in this race.
I thought it was narrowed down a little bit more than that here. The 3, Credit Risk, I throw him on. He's been in decent form recently. Moved 3 wide down the backside at Chester last time, or Harris Philly last time. He hasn't been winning much, but I think this is a class that he fits well. He's going to the big track. He likes the big track, and I think a trip up close is in order here for him. And he seems to be coming into his top form coming into this race, so I think he's a horse you got to have somewhere. The 4, Rather Swell. This is another one, very sneaky horse. Has a mark of 51 at the Meadowlands this year. Kind of just going through the motions at Chester, and I think the move back to the Meadowlands with his type of racing style is the way to go for him. Coming off of a good race where he was way back early on and, kind of just had to make too much effort in the middle portion of the race and got tired late. This is a race he's going to excel in, and he just needs to get a trip. That's the key with him. If he does, I think he's got a big shot at a big price. The 5, Winsong Jack, I throw him on. Brett Miller jumps on for the first time. He's made some decent money this year and likes the Meadowlands. He's got a win here. I think he's got 2 wins here, actually. And this is a drop in class for him, racing over at Yonkers. He is off form a little bit, but he should jump back into decent racing form going to the Meadowlands. So starting from the winningest post, I think he's in a good spot to be able to rebound off of a couple of bad efforts recently. So 3, 4, 5.
I remember initially looking at this race and going through the entire field, not picking a single horse. I found it hard to even try and find 3 horses in this race, but of course I kind of had to, I had to kind of levy my opinions a bit, kind of loose, be more liberal in my selection. Still ended up with 3 horses. One of them is not Winsong Jack, even though he's dropping in class. The only thing that really stands out to me is 2 starts back. He moved first over, but then didn't really. That race would have been passable if that was the race he was entering off of. But then that race he put in last out is it's worrying to me. Even though it's on the half mile, and now he's moving to the bigger track. I'd rather him be moving to the bigger track, showing a bit more form. And you were definitely talking about he is off form. But just relying on him to bounce going back to a surface, to me, is not enough justification to take a horse that's going to end up probably being 3 or 4 to 1, if not lower. That said, I was even hesitant to take Credit Risk, who's one of 3 horses I used in this race, entering off of 3 straight third-place finishes. Although the more I kind of looked into it, the more I talked myself into thinking he's probably the top contender in this race. 3 starts back against Tougher over at Yonkers, finished 3rd from post 6, just riding the rail and picking up ground. Then shift over to Freehold and dropped in class, tried to race on the lead, battled for most of the way, and ended up giving way in the stretch as the 3-2 favorite to finish 3rd. But then last out of Harris, Philadelphia, moves to the 5/8 then, sits off of a somewhat fast pace, and then goes around Tired Ones to get 3rd. And it was specifically the fact that he went by Tired Ones, I had kind of a hard time taking him. But it's a better finish than most of these horses are showing on paper. So Credit Risk to me seems like the one to beat in this race and might end up being the favorite, which would definitely reflect that opinion being somewhat valid. But he's one of 3 I used. The other 2 being to his inside, the 2 Southwind Indy, ships in from Pocono Downs where he had 2 outside posts, 2 starts back, left for the lead, tried to sit the rail as they went kind of fast on the front, but ended up finishing 5th. And then last out, just didn't leave from post 8, and I don't really expect him to do anything as a result. But the fact that he showed speed at 58 to 1, 2 starts back, is a bit of a confidence booster for me using him in this spot, drawing the inside and going up against similar competition and also moving to the bigger track. Those are all positives in my book for a horse that could potentially be 20, 25 to 1. That stands a somewhat decent chance so long as he returns to that form he showed 2 starts back. And then the third horse I used is the 6, Show Me Up, shipping in from Saratoga. He comes in on the optional claiming tag, and if you look at the races where he was not at a post disadvantage, he was racing really well against $12,000 claimers over on the half mile. He had post 6, 2 starts back, and closed, but still finished 6th, and he had post 8 last out. He still closed, but again finished 6th because the post just affected him that much. Now moving to the bigger track, that doesn't necessarily seem to be a negative factor at all. He's also not in against a strong bunch, so he is another one that I feel could end up being the favorite in terms of form. He has better form than Credit Risk in my opinion, but it might not be as evident, therefore he might not necessarily be the favorite. All that said, I'm 2-3-6 in the second leg of this pick 4. That brings us then to the third leg, race number 10, a $7,500 claiming event. Again, we got 10 horses going postward here. And now, Mike, you're kind of narrowing down your ticket. I understand for price, but do you think that this race is as wide open as the other ones we've seen?
Yeah, I do. It's again a very good sequence, difficult. I think if you hit, you're going to get paid just because it's so wide open and you need to go deep. I'm 3 deep here. The one, Maki, I guess. This horse has been racing well at Vernon in the Class C races, which, I don't know how that, equates to this, but the horse is sharp. He's won 2 out of the last 3, kicked 27-1 last time. Very lightly raced, 5 races this year. He was on the board 4 out of the 5. I like that he likes the big track. I like that, he draws well here. This can't be any tougher, these 75, New Jersey claimers than, what the horse is racing at up there. So I think you have to use that one. Either the 5, Charmbo Curiosity. This horse, 8 to 1 morning line. Again, another one outside posted Pocono, outside posted Philly, 7-time winner this year. The horse is racing well enough, finished second, 2 back, is kicking home, after wide draws and has some sloppy tracks in there. I think that, and this is another one that has a lifetime mark on a bigger track, should be better with the bigger track. And, you get a decent draw and an 8 to 1 morning line to go with. And then the 8, CC Big Boy Sam, this horse is sharp. 2 second place finishes the last 2 races at Pocono, albeit on wet tracks. Has been racing at this level all year and, has made 32,000 and 30 starts. Not bad. The horses are, paying his way. Gets the big track, does flash speed, and, it just seems sharper than most of these. 158.
Now, Rod, I see that you use a 1, but no 5-8. Care to explain?
No, I'm a little bit
Okay.
I'm a little bit different here. The 1 I think needs to be used. has been very good for John McDonald. Corey Callahan jumps on a drive on the ship down from Vernon. I used this horse when he was at Tioga that day, and he just did not fire. He needs a big track. This is a class that he's going to excel at the Meadowlands, so this to me is a lateral class move because there are other, I think there's one other one coming out of the same type of races in here. Yeah, the 10 horse coming out of the same type of races, and he actually beat the 10 horse last time. So with the addition of Corey Callahan, you can't go wrong there. But I'm also using the 3 Sunshine Somewhere. Has been off form a little bit, but gets Brett Miller to drive. Going back to the big track. A lot of these horses in the first couple weeks, you see we use them because they're going back to a big track, and some of them need it. He's one of them. This is a horse, he kind of just goes through the motions, goes one speed on those smaller tracks, and the Meadowlands is going to let him stretch his legs a little bit, and that's something that he needs with his style of racing. So if he can get into a decent spot and Brett Miller can wake him up a little bit, he's got a big shot to win. He is 0 for the year, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and use him. The 6 Western Red Hot, decent price play here. Second time back after he pulled up. I don't know what happened there, but he was good last time. A brutal drive in that race at Freehold. Goes to the Meadowlands. He's 1-54 at Vernon this year, so you know he's good on a big track. And if I recall, he was maybe second here at the Meadowlands earlier in the year in a similar class with Andy Miller driving at a big price. But this is kind of a lateral move for him as well, up a little bit in class, but he coming off of that last race, he definitely plays here no matter how Andy drives him. I think he's got enough early speed. He can go if he needs to. And the thing about this horse, if he gets his own way, he's good. If he doesn't, if he kind of gets bottled up or, something like that, he won't be anywhere close at the top of the stretch, and you'll definitely see that. But I think if Andy puts him in the right spot, this is a horse that will be charging, at least be in contention late in the mile, and is going to be a very good price.
And that, as you described, is most horses. I'm 3 deep in this race. We all seem to agree with Mock Me Mackey. This horse is pretty obvious, shipping in from Vernon. You see 3 bold lines, third 4 back, first 3 back, third 2 back, 1 back. Did you get all that? I did. And this horse was won from post 8 last out, now gets post 1. Definitely a benefit, whichever way you look at it. I look at it from an inside perspective, being that this horse is starting from the inside. I'm not going to look at it from an outside perspective. What am I, stupid? But this horse is probably going to end up being the favorite. He's pretty obvious, if not evident by the fact that all 3 of us use him. However, none of you guys use the 4, One More Miracle. I do. He makes his second start off of a 6 scratch, and in his first start back, he rode the pocket, and I understand he rode the pocket at Pocono Downs and finished second, but still, he finished second off of a 6 scratch, and to me, that's still worth noting. Before he scratched sick on September 18th against similar competition, he left the gate from post 7, was in contention, but then kind of faltered into the stretch and ended up finishing 4th. He's another one that seems like could definitely benefit from the big track. Sure, he's 0 for 16, but it takes to be 1 for 17, a good trip. And this horse could certainly get a good trip from the draw he has an improving second start off of a 6 scratch. I also do like the 8 CC Big Boy Sam, not because it's one of the best names of a horse I've heard in a long time, but also this horse has 2 great miles over at Pocono Downs. A 2-back came from off the pace when there was no pace set up for him. He did it purely on his own accord, and he did so gaining ground in the stretch, coming from 28 and change to finish second. Last out, he parked first over and just missed by a head in the stretch over a sloppy track at Pocono Downs against $7,500 claimers. This horse, to me, is probably... I could see him winning as much as I could see Macklemore winning to the inside. It's pretty contentious between those two, in my opinion. And if I was betting this race to win, I'd probably end up betting CC Big Boy Sam, because I think he's going to be value on the win end if we're talking in that dimension. However, we're also talking in a horizontal dimension, parallel to that which we are in now. I'm going to be 148 in the third leg of this pick four at the Meadowlands. Now, of course, if we just talked about the third leg of the pick four, that means the next leg we're talking about is, that's right, the fourth leg, the final leg. If you make it this far, when you lose, it's going to hurt that much more. It's an hours of 3,500 their last 5 starts. It's another division, the Dash for the G-Notes, $6,500 purse, another field of 10. What I found interesting is Mike and Rod, you two are in somewhat agreement. I am in a completely different field. You guys are playing football. I'm playing rugby. I have no idea how you two land on these horses, because Mike, for instance, the 2 horses you used, I could not touch.
Okay, so the 4 JoJo Jove loves this place. Raced very well this year here. Was racing, at these kind of levels, and some of the open claimers. Perfect tightener last time at Batavia from the rail. Won easily from that spot. Prior to that, the Tioga, bad post, 5, 7, 8, 7. No shot in any of those races. Back to where he likes it, off a tightener after missing a week. This horse plays very well. 6 wins this year, 5 wins last year. I think, that he's very viable in here, especially with his early speed. And then the 7, I think, is interesting, Major Starlight, who gets Brett Miller, has 11 wins this year, 9 wins last year. Again, excels on the big track. 7-hole at Freehold last time, no shot against the optional 10 claimers. Prior to that, had the rail and won 2 back off the claim. This horse is fine, in decent form. And, I like Miller getting on board. I like the fact that the horse likes to win. And I'll use him. So 4 and 7 to finish.
Well, Rod, you also agree with JoJo Jove, and I don't necessarily know what I'm missing. Mike kind of talked me onto him slightly, but I'm still not convinced. But you're also a fan of Frankie Boy.
Yeah, with JoJo Jove, he's basically a strictly big track horse. He loves the big track. He goes, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, he goes way, way better gated and way faster on the big track. Most horses go faster on the big track, but this horse is just a different animal when he gets to the Meadowlands. Earlier in the year, he was just crushing these similar fields, and even all the way up to non-winners of 7,500, I think he won a race there. So, he's a horse, you have to have him. You have to. But Frankie Boy, the 8, I use him. Last time, I kind of excused that race. That was kind of an anomaly from him. But he does drop in class just a hair. You look back, 2 starts back, he was first over, battled the 122 and 1, 3/4 over at Rosecroft. That is brutal over there. I'll excuse that race. Comparing it to the start before, where he went 126 and 1, that's 20 lengths right there. So I think he definitely plays, and usually he comes from off the pace. I see Mike Burton ducking him off the pace in this race, and he's a big time player in this race. Just needs to find the right trip and get brought up into the race around the 3/4 pole.
I get what you guys are saying with JoJo Jove. But here's my concern as I secure my Standardbred Canada shift. Jojo Jove enters off a wire-to-wire win at Batavia against Nars at 1,200 from the rail. As the favorite in that race, I can't really gauge much from that. He does have a season's mark here at the Meadowlands. I get that much, and I get his preference for the big track. However, you'd think that going over to Tioga and racing against those Nars at 1,200 and such, even if he shows a bit of speed, he'd be finishing better than he has. And to me, it almost seems like he's kind of on the wrong track. It is definitely confidence booster. He's coming in off a win, but again, from the rail at Batavia as the favorite, I don't know how to weight that at all. So I go in a different direction with two horses I feel that I have a better understanding of. I feel I can read better, and I also feel fit the condition. Cam Weiser is one of them. He draws further inside after having post 6 over at Harris Philadelphia. He was in against ours with $4,300 their last out. And he ended up kind of just lagging behind, but then looking to his starts before over at Freehold. He slowly climbed the class ladder over at Freehold. 5 starts back, numbers of 1,000. He went first over, he won. 4 starts back, went second over, was second by a head. 3 starts back, first over, but then that did him away, and he ended up finishing 6th. And then 2 starts back, sat off of a fast pace, and still finished 3rd. He's moving to the bigger track now. He draws well, and his miles over at Freehold at least show to me that maybe moving to the bigger track at this point in the season, his form is compatible with that stretch out. Jojo Jove, to me, I don't know where his form's at right now. He appears to be off. He certainly can bounce, but he's another one, like earlier in the sequence, I think it was Winsong Jack. I don't want to rely on him bouncing purely moving to the bigger track, especially if he's going to end up being the favorite. The second horse I take here is the 5 Admiral. Last out over at Pocono Downs against $10,000 claimers. Left for the lead from post 4. Ended up sitting pocket. Finished 3rd in that race in a 1:49.4 mile. He also drops the claiming tag this week, which is a bit interesting, having raced for a $10,000 tag in every other start. Whether that's because he fit the condition now or because they want to keep him, I can only conjecture. But he's another one shipping in, stretching out, has okay miles over at Pocono recently, and could definitely improve coming into this race, moving to 2 turns. So I'm 2-5 in the last leg. So my pick 4 ticket reads as follows. For 50 cents, these are the numbers. I'm 134. With 236, with 148, with 25. That's $27 for 50 cents. Mike, your ticket.
I have a big ticket. 13578 with 245,610 with 158 with 47 at $75.
Rod.
35689 with 345 with 136 with 48. It's $45.
And I love the enthusiasm. That does it for us here on North American Harness Update. Tomorrow afternoon, Yonkers Raceway hosts the $1 million International Trot. Tomorrow night, Woodbine Mohawk Park hosts their Super Night. Ontario Sire Stakes Gold Super Finals, $225,000 each for 8 divisions, totaling in over $1.6 million in purses. And of course, also Saturday night, the Meadowlands Late Pick 4. We just capped that sequence. It's races 8 through 11. We'll have our graphics posted before the race goes to post over on our Twitter at NA Harness Update, as well as on our Facebook, North American Harness Update. Make sure you also check our website, NAHUpicks.com. Rod will have analysis for tomorrow's card at the Meadowlands. Mike, as always, will have his analysis for Woodbine Mohawk Park. You got a bit of a preview of that with the Super Finals we went into tonight. And, of course, Rod will also have, for the future, his analyses for Western Fair Raceway as they come back Monday.